What's up, guys? Original Star Wars fan here, back at it again with another Star Wars oriented video. Let me make sure my mic is on par. Cool. So today I wanted to do a video on the listing / ranking of my top Star Wars movies. We're going to be starting at the bottom from my least favorite to my most favorite, rocking that OG style Star Wars shirt and the orange beanie per usual. So yeah, let's get started. At number 10, I place The Last Jedi, which is probably no surprise to anyone. A lot of people don't like The Last Jedi, and I'm one of them. Now, there are a lot of cinematic things that are really cool about this movie. The throne room fight scene was visually great. The salt planet scene was really cool. Visually, this movie's really good. It just lacked a lot of real direction. It was too all over the place and didn't really feel very Star Wars-y. It didn't have that normal, natural Star Wars vibe, and just felt awkward and out of place to me, to be honest with you. And I wasn't really a fan of the direction they went. So, next up on the list, The Force Awakens. This might surprise some people. Damn, dude, my lighting is like... One sec. Just turn that down a smidge. Awesome. So, next on the list is Star Wars The Force Awakens. Now, this one might surprise some people, like I was saying. A lot of people did like The Force Awakens. I haven't liked it. I didn't like it when it came out, and I still don't really like it that much now. I feel like it lacks originality and plays solely on nostalgia. They basically crammed the original trilogy into one movie and then hoped nobody would notice. Like, some of the only original things that they have in it are like Kylo's lightsaber and stopping blaster bolts. Like, there's not much to it. It just, it had a Star Wars feel to it, which was cool, and I liked the nostalgia, but that's all the movie was, which isn't enough for me. Then, we have The Rise of Skywalker. Now, this is probably one of the best of the new trilogy that came out, which is just my personal opinion. A lot of people might say it's The Force Awakens. But it felt like, they corrected a lot of the errors that the other movies made. It had more original ideas to it, while still maintaining the visually cool scenes. The Ben Solo character arc, which is the best part about these movies, really started to come together and left me leaving the theater feeling like, hey, this is why I love Star Wars. This is a quality Star Wars movie. This is what the fans love, and this is why I watch this. So that's why I put it where it is on my list. It doesn't have enough. It missed too many opportunities to be any higher. Now, say it's capitalized upon some of the other stuff that a lot of other YouTubers talk about and that obvious fans know about. I think it goes up even higher on my list and maybe makes top 5, I would say. Maybe even top 3 if they really fully went in and listened to the fans. But hey, we're just fans. We're not the ones taking the financial risk, right? Then, that leaves us with The Phantom Menace. I don't know. The Phantom Menace is kind of a weird movie to me. It feels really cheesy. The dialogue isn't that cool. It starts off really cool, and then it's just kind of awkward, weird. Pod racing. Awkward, weird. And then, cool story clones, and then Darth Maul. And then that's okay. And then they sprinkle some awkward Jar Jar Binks comedy on it, I guess. I don't know. It's definitely not one of my favorite movies, but I have to put it above the other 3 because I grew up on the prequels and I grew up watching these movies in the theaters. So it kind of has that, that heartfelt homey hit. Then we head to Attack of the Clones, which is also not the greatest movie, to be honest with you. But I like it better than I do The Phantom Menace. You're introducing new characters. You're building connections with other characters. Anakin is now older. Hayden Christensen's playing him. I love Hayden Christensen. You have their interaction between Anakin and Padme, and he's trying to win her love over. You have Obi-Wan, who's still on the rise, but you could tell he still has that youthfulness to him. A little bit of the arrogance. You can start to see a little bit of the dark side in Anakin. You have Jango Fett, little Boba Fett. You have all the clones, Mace Windu, Yoda, a lot of lightsabers, tons of Jedi. It embodies Star Wars. It's just like, say they fix the dialogue in this movie's like top notch, because visually it's great, and all the little cool extra stuff and character building just makes it it puts it higher and up on the list for me to make it above the rest of the movies. So that's why I have it where it's at. Then we have A New Hope. I like A New Hope. A New Hope's a great movie. It's just too slow for me. And I almost wanted to put it lower on the list, like below Attack of the Clones, just because of all the action Attack of the Clones has. But it just didn't feel right to do. It's the OG movie. It started it all off. Gotta give it enough respect. And it's just a great film overall. It's fun, family friendly. It's what Star Wars is, and that's what it's supposed to be, you know. Then we go with The Empire Strikes Back. Love The Empire Strikes Back. For a while, it was my number 2 movie, but the more I watch it, it's like still great. I still love The Empire Strikes Back. You have Hoth, you have romance, you have just all kinds of cool stuff. There are other movies that top this for me. It's still a great movie. I have no real knocks on The Empire Strikes Back for the time and everything. It's a fantastic film, and I love it. I always love rewatching the original trilogy. It leaves you feeling a little bit different than some of the other Star Wars movies might. Then we have The Return of the Jedi. So for a while, like I was saying, The Empire Strikes Back was above Return of the Jedi, but I've recently gone back through and continuously watch Return of the Jedi, and I find myself stuck on this movie. I really like it. It shows a darker side of Luke, a more powerful side of Luke. Bounty hunters, Jabba the Hutt, Boba Fett, who's one of my favorite characters. It's just like a darker, nittier, grittier movie. The Ewoks, which is like good little bits of comedy here and there. It's a classic film. It's classic Star Wars with like a nittier, grittier side that like the prequels started to bring in. You know, like the prequels for me are some of the nittier gritty movies, but this is where it began. You have the resurrection of Anakin Skywalker, the respect they show there, defeat of Palpatine, Luke basically giving up his own life, saying that he's not going to turn to the dark side. Like, that's how committed he is to the light. There's just a lot of Star Wars. Like, this is what Star Wars is, and this is probably the movie that embodies it the most for me, I would say, all around, which would make sense since it's OG. But this is my number 2 most favorite movie. Number 1 on the list, kind of an obvious choice, Revenge of the Sith. There isn't a Star Wars movie that I've seen more than this, and it's not even like, hey, I've watched the like XYZ Star Wars movies this many times. I've still watched Revenge of the Sith like probably 100 times more than the other ones. It's one I got to see in theaters, watched it multiple times. I love Hayden Christensen. I love Ewan McGregor, Natalie Portman. I love their characters. The movie starts off with like just insane space battle, and you get to see the love and respect that Obi-Wan and Anakin have for each other, but then you also get to see like their differences and the connection they've built over time. Then you have the battle with Count Dooku, the manipulation of Palpatine, the escape, Anakin's wittiness, and then it goes like further down the line, they're manipulating Anakin to spy on Palpatine. Lots of action, great color, great cinematography. You start to see the downfall of Anakin, which is really sad. And it also shows like how strong Obi-Wan is as a character too, because he's seen so much death and hatred and harm, and he's still stayed committed to the light, where Anakin is already starting to like be pushed further and further into the dark. And you get to see how Palpatine's true manipulation of the whole franchise is like coming together. And then you get to see some of like the connections with the clones, and just like good, like healthy built relationships, and like it gives you a sense of hope right before it rips your heart straight out of your body. And then as you're like feeling that pain, all of a sudden they're like, hey, how about we give you the best 10 minutes in Star Wars history and just have Anakin and Obi-Wan fight with some of the greatest music ever. and you're like, my life is complete. That fight scene makes this movie number one. There's a lot of other stuff, like I said, but it just, the emotion that comes out of this movie is insane. And then to finish it off with that, and then Padme dying, and Luke and Leia being born and have to be hidden, and then the rise of Vader, like the true rise of Vader in his suit. Oh man, it's a lot. It's definitely a lot to take in. It's a long movie, but there's just so much stuff, man. And then the more you watch like other movies in the Clone Wars, like this movie like becomes even more and more of like a gut-wrenching, heartfelt hit every time you watch it. So that's why I put it number one on the list. I have very few critiques of this movie other than the obvious ones, which I'm sure all the haters would be easy to point out. But other than that, man, this is the number one for me. Now, if I want to add in the 2 Star Wars story movies like Han Solo, I would probably put the Han Solo movie above Phantom Menace, right in between Attack of the Clones and Phantom Menace. And then the Rogue One I would probably put above Empire Strikes Back. So it'd be number 3 on my list. That movie was really good. It just felt a little too kind of like forgettable to me, like the characters, which made sense since they were like the unheard rebels that went in and like did this really cool sacrificial action so that like the true main characters could have their light. So they did it perfectly. Rogue One is a phenomenal movie. I love it. They should have made all the other Star Wars movies similar to that and kept that style, because that's awesome. But yeah, anyways, ended up with Revenge of the Sith. Let me know what you guys think down below. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm gonna have another video coming out later this week. Not sure what that one's gonna be, but it could be the review for the next episode of the Clone Wars. If not, I might do a facts video in between there. But yeah, I hope you all are having a great day. As always, like, comment, subscribe, and may the Force be with you.